Dear friends, today I am here to help you in building your self-confidence. Self-confidence is the grease that keeps the life of wheel moving. I am narrating an incident that occurred during the world history. All of you know there was the Second World War. There were two different camps, the Allied forces and the Central Powers. The Central Power was represented by Germany and Japan, whereas the Allied forces were represented by Britain, France and Russia. When the war ended, the Supreme Commander of the Allied forces, Mr. Winston Churchill, became the Prime Minister of United Kingdom. And when he became the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the school which Mr. Churchill attended was celebrating its 150th year. They invited Mr. Churchill to be the chief guest, and he gladly accepted it. That was the first official acceptance on the part of Mr. Churchill to be a guest in an official, in a kind of ceremonious kind of function. And when the day arrived, Mr. Churchill arrived in the school, and everybody was curious to know what Mr. Churchill would be talking about leadership. There were guardians, students, teachers, journalists, and a huge crowd really gathered to hear Mr. Churchill to speak about the characteristics of a leader. And when the headmaster received Churchill and asked him to deliver his speech, he came to the high desk. Churchill generally wears a small rectangular glass. He took it off, cleaned it for a while, then put it in his pocket. Then he took up a small sheet of paper, wrapped it on the high desk, and spoke only 5 words. He said, never, 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 never give up. And then Mr. Churchill sat down. Everybody was expecting that Churchill would give a speech for an hour and a half. When Mr. Churchill spoke only 5 words, they were not sure how to respond to the presentation. But when people understood that Churchill has really spoken the synopsis of a leader within those 5 words, they stood up and clapped for half an hour. Dear friends, what Mr. Churchill meant is very simple but very crucial. He was trying to say that leadership requires determination, that we need some kind of confidence to go ahead. When you do any kind of work, you will observe that there are 2 components of the work. We gather this kind of skill, we go to school, we go to college, we go to different kinds of training center, and thereby we acquire the kind of skill. But skill acquisition will not really guarantee that we can perform the particular kind of work. For performing a particular kind of work, we need another parameter which is called confidence. You might have a lot of confidence, you might have a lot of kind of skill, but you might not perform the work competently well. If you were in school, you might have observed that there are some teachers who are repository of knowledge. They are really very scholarly, very pedantic, but when it comes to classroom performance, they may not be the kinds of successful performance, they are the utter failure. Therefore, in order to do a work, you need a belief system, the belief that you can do the work. This is called the self-confidence. Sometimes technically we call it self-efficacy. Now, self-efficacy is not something which is very abstract, which is very conceptual. You can measure it. It can take 3 different forms. First of all, that you may have a general level of confidence. You may believe that you are a very capable person and you can do a lot of work. That is a general kind of capability. But just imagine, even if you consider yourself as a capable person and you are going along the road, you may find a girl is being drowned. Are you going to save her? The answer is no. You are not going to save her because you do not know how to swim. Therefore, in order to do a work, you not only require some kind of general belief of confidence, you also ought to have certain area specific, certain domain specific kind of belief system. If you want to save the child, you must have swimming efficacy. If you are driving a car or a two-wheeler, you must have driving efficacy. It is also measurable. I can ask you 50 questions which you can answer in yes or no. I can ask you like this, that can you drive well when it is busy part of the day? Can you drive well when you are feeling feverish? Can you drive well when the traffic signals are not good? Can you drive well when the light condition is pretty bad? If I ask you 50 questions and if you say yes, 45 times, I would come to the conclusion that you have a very high level of confidence. On the contrary, if you say only 5 yeses, that means your confidence level is very low. Therefore, it is a measurable thing. The third form of your confidence may take a collective form, a team form. For example, you are working in an organization and there are certain kinds of changes that are going to take place. Can you have the feeling that you can do the change? The answer is no. If you collectively, all your colleagues, all your kinds of subordinates believe that the change can be implemented, only then the change can be implemented. Therefore, sometimes for social change, for cultural change, and for organizational change, we need a third form of confidence, that is a collective kind of change, which we call team spirit. Now, the most important question for us is how to build self-confidence. I will give you 5 basic formula through which you can build your confidence. The first formula involves the mastery belief or mastery experiences. Now, generally people like to work within a zone which is their comfort zone, in their very familiar, conventional and routine kind of setting. But dear friends, if you want to build your confidence, you have to go beyond that kind of comfort zone. You have to go to the unfamiliar situation. You have to go to the new situation so that your experiences get really expanded. So always go for the new experience, unusual experiences and new kind of situation. Just think of an adaptive mother. The adaptive mother knows if there is a circus in the town, the mother knows the child would be scared. But what does an adaptive mother do? She takes the child and tells the child that, baby, don't get scared, I am with you and I will give you protection when you are scared. Similarly, that when we want to expand our horizon, expand our experiences, we have to go to these new kind of situations. Second formula we have to adopt is the structuring of our experiences. Suppose you are given a number of tasks. Now just ask yourself which task you are going to initiate. Generally, some people, they go for very easy tasks, so they get 1 success, 2nd success, 3rd success, maybe all 100% successful. But remember that if you get 100% successful, you may not be a very successful person. When you encounter hardship and when you encounter difficult situation, then you encounter failure and you get easily frustrated. On the contrary, other people also, they take another approach. They become just like a gambler who take lot of risk, a very high level of risk. So failure comes once, twice, thrice and many times. And once you encounter a large number of failures, then you become frustrated, helpless, and you develop the idea probably nothing can be done. Therefore, all you have to do is to start the work with moderate difficulty level. Take the work where there is 60% of success, there is 70% probability of success. Then when you are successful, then you can go for more and more difficult kind of work. Formula number 3 is very subtle and very important. You have to listen very carefully. Generally, when we do good work, we always see around and try to spot our role model. But generally what happens, people have a weakness. They look at the role models from a very distant and they worship them, they admire them, but they never imitate them. Why? Because they see the dissimilarity. Suppose you find Mr. X is a very successful person, but at the same time you see the dissimilarity. You may rationalize, oh, X is successful because he is a very, wealthy person. Many of his, sons and daughters, they are well off. He doesn't have to take care of the domestic chores. So when you have these kinds of reasoning, you create a kind of distance. And you try to do not to, even if you admire, even if you worship, you never imitate. Therefore, I am advising you a different thing. Always when you spot your role model and identify the role model, try to identify the role model from your vicinity, from your near surrounding. And once you spot the role model from your near vicinity, then you will see the similarity and you will feel like imitating them. Fourth formula, I would say it is a kind of persuasion. If you are parents, you have to tell your children that you can do it. If you are teachers, you have to tell your students that you can do it. If you are leaders, you can tell your subordinates that you can do it. And similarly, you will have to also tell yourself that I can do it, I can do it. You have to tell it a number of times. And once these persuasions are given, then actually your body cells also change. If you say you can do it, all your body cells will vibrate with that message. On the contrary, if you say I cannot do it, all your body cells will also vibrate with that message. Therefore, you will have to use this kind of persuasion that I can do it, and you have to tell others that you can do it. The last but not the least is the formula of interpreting your tiredness, your monotony, and your arousal process. Generally, people get exhausted and tired when they do a bit of hard work. I can give you an example. Suppose you have been attending a particular work from morning to evening. So in the evening, if you meet your friend and your friend asks you, how do you feel? Generally, you would say that I am all exhausted because I have been working all the day. But you can imagine your friend who may answer it differently. Your friend may say that, okay, today was a very productive day because whatever I did today, I could not have done it for within a particular month. I remember a very famous quotation of Baba Amte, who responded in a very positive manner. Now, you know, Baba Amte was one of the renowned social activists of India, and during his days, when he was relatively informed and did not have the capacity to move about, once a journalist asked him, Baba Amte, you are now informed, and how do you manage to do a lot of work? You know what Baba Amte responded? He said that when I get off early in the morning, I renew myself. So dear friends, that we should always think that energy is not a fixed quantity. It is always, it can be expanded, it can be renewed, and especially the mental energy, the emotional energy, and the psychological energy, that is always the kinds of limitless. So once you have a positive interpretation of your arousal process, you can build your confidence. On the contrary, if you think that your energy is very much limited, obviously your life would be limited, your goals should be limited, and your success would be equally limited. So let us jump to the other side of the fence and give a positive interpretation to the arousal process. So to sum up, in order to build our confidence, we have to do 5 things. Number 1, we have to expand the contour, the area of our mastery experiences. Then we have to start the work from the moderate difficulty level. We have to spot the role model from our near vicinity and imitate him rigorously. And fourthly, we have to give self-persuasion. And finally, we have to have a positive interpretation of the arousal process that we experience. Thank you very much.